Good morning and welcome to this Cervello Live, the 28th of May 2020. As you can see, my location's changed for this Cervello Live. I am back in the office, so doing it slowly and making sure that I commit to social distancing rules. There's nobody around apart from Charlotte, who's on the other side of the desk. Who lives with me, so we are making sure that as we film this we comply with the rules again, but it is really nice to just have a bit of a change of location, so hope you're doing well, hope you're having a really good Thursday. We're going to be talking about a really important subject today, which is protection and making sure that you've got the right protection in place for you and your family, and the reasons why that's important. And to talk about that and a specific area of protection, I'm joined by Terry. Terry, how are you today, mate?
I'm very well, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, great to see you, mate. So what we're going to do is talk about protection holistically and a bit more generally, and then we're going to talk about, in particular, health cover, in more specifically with Terry. Now, what I'd like to do as well is on every show we typically have a few questions come in, so feel free on the live, or if you're watching this on YouTube or LinkedIn, to post any questions that you've got, and if we don't catch it on the current show, in a future show we'll be happy to answer them. And thank you for your kind comments on previous lives where we were talking about, where you were sharing the fact that some of the stuff that we've been sharing had been particularly useful. So that's part of the reason we do that. We realise that it's a tough time financially and with the concerns around money, and what we want to do on Cervello Live is make sure that we're sharing really good quality information for you to consider what actions you need to take to make sure that you and your family are going to be okay. So as I said, what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about making sure that you and your family are sufficiently protected at this time. So I want to talk about planning for tomorrow and protecting for today. And what I'm going to share is a clear process that you might want to follow as an individual, as a mum, as a dad, as somebody where family is important, to make sure that you are doing the right things for your family and you by planning for tomorrow and protecting for today. So there's a few ways that you can do that. Let me just talk those through. Firstly, everything starts with your financial plan. So consider what you want for your financial future, but also think about how you make sure that you're ensuring against some of the barriers that get in the way of you achieving that goal. The next step is to look at protection, and that's the area that we're going to be focusing on today. The other areas are, and these are things that you want to consider when you're thinking about structuring your financial plan and the actions you take. The next step is to look at what debt you've got, particularly the expensive debt, and consider how you might pay that off. We always recommend with our clients that they've got an element of emergency funds. So how much money? You know what? The coronavirus situation we've been in has really shown how important having a pot of cash held somewhere is, because there are a lot of people where they haven't held enough emergency funds and they've found themselves struggling with cash flow because they haven't had emergency funds. So part of a really good, robust financial plan is not only making sure that you invest for the long term, but making sure that in the short term you've got some cash there. Then you look at medium-term goals, and for some of my clients that might be children going to university, that might be a house move, that might be a new car in 3 years. You know, what are those goals that mean that you need to save medium term? And then you look at the longer term goals, and that typically is, what age am I going to be when I achieve financial independence? You know, how do I get to a point where I know that I'm never going to run out of money again? Now, that doesn't mean that you need to give up work. If you're lucky as me, and you really enjoy what you do, perhaps giving up work is never going to be an option. But the choice to give up work, because you know that you don't need the money, is a consideration you want to get into. And ultimately, for most people, the end game in their financial plan. But the reality is that all of that can be jeopardised if you don't have the foundations in place to make sure that if things do go wrong, you are fully protected. And it's a really interesting one because we insure everything in our lives. We insure our cars, we insure it when we used to travel. Do you remember that, Terry? You know, when we used to like sort of jump on planes and do that? So we do that. We insure our businesses, rightfully so, and then we insure our homes and the contents within our homes. But the interesting thing for me is sometimes we don't insure our most valuable asset. So travel, if we lose a trip, we might lose thousands of pounds. If we have to replace our car, that might be thousands of pounds. If we need to replace business or property assets, that might be hundreds of thousands of pounds. And they're liabilities that are going to be difficult to have the cash sometimes to do. But then we look at our families. The most important thing from our life, for most of us, from a financial and non-financial perspective. And sometimes we find that people have got everything else insured, but the element that is the most important. And it's really interesting. To prepare for today, I wanted to think about what that might be worth. So I said, right, somebody's age 35 earning £45,000 a year, and they carry on working until the age of 68, what that earning potential, the amount of money they're going to earn between now and the age of 68, assuming that their salary goes up by 5% a year, and I've just used that broad figure. Do you know what that figure is, Terry?
I hate to think, it's obviously going to be in the hundreds of thousands. Over £500,000?
Yeah, it's the figure, and again, because of that inflationary increase, is actually 3.8 million.
Wow.
So that's the amount that if we were 35 today and we stopped at 68, over the next 30 odd years, we'd earn. And what we sometimes neglect is to make sure that we protect that, which is clearly our earning potential is the most valuable asset we've got. Now, what would you want to protect? There's a few things that you can do, and what I'm going to do is list the ones, certainly the ones that you can do for absolutely free. Okay, so I'm going to start on the stuff that you should do as a financial planner. I recommend to our clients that they can do to free, moving forward to the ones that might cost you a bit of money, but certainly are worth considering. So here are the actions you should consider. First thing we do, it's really interesting, the amount of times we get people who we consult with who have got existing pensions or existing protection policies, but they haven't told the plan provider who they want the money to go to. Okay, so they haven't said to the insurance company, in the event of us dying or suffering from a critical illness or stuff like that, I want my money to go to this person. Now, that's a no-brainer. You can do that free with any pension or protection provider in the land. And what I'd recommend you do, go through a bit of time but no money, is check that all of your existing plans have the name of the person you want to receive it in the event of your death. A couple of reasons that's really important. Number one, if you haven't assigned a plan, the trustees on the pension or the life insurance company don't know who to pay it to. So it will take longer for your dependents to get the money. And worst case scenario, it will hit your estate as opposed to going directly to the individual you want it to. And that creates all sorts of issues around inheritance tax and all sorts of issues around the money potentially not going to the people you want it to. So do that. Make sure you're speaking to your life insurance providers and pension providers. Next step isn't something we do, it's something we believe is really important. Make sure you've got a will. It's a relatively low cost thing to do. In episode 2, we talked to Rob about writing a will, making sure that you were in a position where that was in place. Why is that important? Because, again, it's about making sure that all of the plans that you've got in place aren't jeopardised if something happens to you, because you haven't told you haven't made it clear in the will who you want that money to go to. So for me, writing a will is a no-brainer. And something that I've done recently with Cassie is complete powers of attorney. Why complete the power of attorney is important? Purely and simply because we run a business together, and I want to make sure that the business can continue to run if whatever reason I'm incapacitated. And a power of attorney allows Cassie to make decisions if I am unable to make those decisions on an ongoing basis. And there's 2 types of powers of attorney. Go back to episode 2 or 3, and you can do that there, and I'll make sure that we put a link into that episode in the show notes so you can do that. Then I focus on protecting your family against your death. You know, we've looked at the amount of income that you could potentially earn if you were 35. It's a huge amount, but I focus on, number one, making sure that you protect your family whilst the kids are still dependent on you, and also making sure that all debts are paid off as a minimum. That's where you start with that. And then you look at protecting against critical illness. We know that with evolutions in the way that we are looked after medically, we're now in a position where we're all surviving critical illnesses like cancer and heart attack and stroke, but that could stop us working for life. So it's important to make sure that we protect against that. And next, what we look at doing is protecting individuals and families against the loss of income. Those 3 that I've mentioned, insuring against death, insuring against critical illness, insurance against loss of income, all cost money. You know, they're insurance policies like any other insurance policy. But what you are doing is protecting your most valuable asset effectively, and doing that well. If you'd like to have a look, and currently what we're doing is conducting these reviews for free. If you'd like to get in touch with us, we've got a dedicated desk at Cervello where we run you through a number of questions, and there's effectively a traffic light system, so we can let you know whether you're perfectly insured. There's some gaps in that aren't too much of a concern, or actually you need to do something about it, and we're providing that service at the minute at no cost. So feel free to get in touch to do that, and you've got the office number and my email there if you've got any questions. Why do you think, Terry, just out of interest, and before we start our questions, why do you think people don't prioritise some of the personal protections they should look at?
I think people budget around the mandatory protections, when I say mandatory, things like life insurance to cover their mortgages and stuff like that, and then they budget for their new car, and they put to the back of their mind the what ifs.
Yeah.
Like you say, the critical illness, the surviving critical illness, that kind of thing. I think people just, some people superstitiously think that if they take it out, they're going to use it.
Yeah.
The kind of tax rate. I know certainly my father's generation were that way, but I think generally it's just that, the sad it won't happen to me.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? And the reality is, hopefully it won't. But just making, I think certainly when we look at this sort of stuff, we consider ourselves as being in the peace of mind business. Just making sure that if nothing happens, the best thing that I can wish for my clients who we protect is that they never have to claim. Because it means that their health is perfect. But certainly, hopefully, when they do need it, it's there.
I don't want my customers to have to claim, but equally, I don't want people coming to me that wanted to be a customer, wants to be diagnosed, and then not being able to have the cover and get that peace of mind.
Well, that's the other challenge, isn't it? Because we're finding we've done some work during the COVID crisis, where people have come to us with underlying health issues, and the crisis has made them worry a bit more. So what we've been doing is saying to those people, look, we'll try and help by getting cover. The challenge we've got at the minute, and this will get better as we come out, is trying to get cover for people with underlying medical conditions is difficult, particularly when you can't get any GP reports. But yeah, no, it's interesting. So Terry, just thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. Tell us a bit about you.
A brief biography. I guess I'm married, 3 children, 2 beautiful grandchildren. Lived and worked around Essex and London for my life. Around Essex years in investment banking in the city. Before stepping back from that just about 5 years ago, and I bought this business, the WPA business, and that's allowed me to meet a lot more people in my local community, which you have London, your city community, but meeting people in local communities has been great, and also it's given me a lot more time to see my family. I'm getting on the train, I'm working 12, 15-hour days, and it's great to be able to help people locally. Yeah,
do you reckon post COVID, people look at how they spend their time a bit more?
I think so. I think twofold. I think employers are going to look at whether they need those big offices. People have been working effectively, and like I say, people are looking at their time and their family and spending. Okay, they're forced to spend time with their family, but suddenly they're realising what they've been missing by spending 12, 18 hours away from the home.
Yeah, you know what? I'm quite grateful that I really like my family, because it would have been quite difficult this period if I didn't. So you got involved with WPA 5 years ago. Talk to me about what WPA are.
So they're a specialist health insurance company. Their origins go all the way back to 1901, and they've developed over that time. But they're totally focused on health insurance. So we like to think of ourselves as the experts in the UK. We're not for profit company, and we focus on providing their customers access to the best healthcare available in the UK.
Okay.
To do that, we offer flexible levels of cover. So we have different levels of cover to suit the different requirements. But the schemes are tailored. We don't have one scheme that we try to fix all. We tailor schemes for individuals, families, the small businesses, and all the way through to large nationwide companies.
Okay, amazing. So we've talked about making sure that people are protected in the event of death and critical illness and loss of income. Talk to me about who should consider health insurance.
Well, if I look at business, I mean, it falls broadly into 3 categories. So there's individuals and families. They're looking for the peace of mind that we were talking about earlier. So they've got fast access to primary consultations in hospitals for that diagnosis and treatment. And fast diagnosis can save you an awful lot of trouble going forward. So second criteria would be the self-employed. If they're not working, they're not earning. So if you've got to wait 18 weeks plus, which is only going to get worse post-COVID, for treatment of a condition that's restricting your ability to work, you imagine how much impact that's going to have on your earnings. And then in the last category, I'd say businesses that are looking after the most valuable asset, and that's the employees. If you've got healthcare schemes, you can see we will decrease absenteeism. It increases the employee engagement, their sense of belonging and sense of being cared for, and overall increases productivity.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. One of the positive things we've seen with the corporate clients that we look after is the really good employers have stepped up to the plate in terms of making sure that they stay in touch with their employees. They are showing genuine care about making sure their people are looked after, and I think over the longer term that pays off commercially, right?
Absolutely, you get the loyalty, right? The people pay lip service to duty account or do the legal requirement, but those that actually look after their staff or look after their customers are going to see the benefits going forward.
Yeah, great. So help me understand, because I know there's sort of cash plans when it comes to health insurance, all the way through to cover that's quite comprehensive. Help me understand what the difference is between basic cash plan cover and cover that might be a bit more comprehensive.
So the primary difference of that, a cash plan is generally there to cover your day-to-day requirements, things that used to be free but now you have to pay for, like pre-NHS. So optical, like glasses, contact lenses, your dental work, anything like physiotherapy that you can't really get access to that through NHS anymore. But they're fixed level benefits. Right. So you'll be able to claim £150 towards glasses or £200 towards physiotherapy or something like that. Yep. But that can then say £250 towards a private consultation. So if you sort of jump the queue a little bit there, just get a little bit of money. But really it's more about supplementing what you're going to be spending on a cash plan. Okay. Whereas like full medical insurance, private medical insurance as we term it, will generally give you unlimited procedure benefits. So if you're going into hospital for an operation, you've got that cover. And then you can have varying levels of outpatient, so the diagnostic level, which can alter the premiums. But basically it gives you the full PMI gives you peace of mind that you're going to get treatment in a hospital that you want to be in at a time you want to be seen at, and hopefully by some of the best consultants in the country. Yeah,
and again, that time factor is the important element, right? Because it's the making sure that
if you go to the GP and he says, okay, well, we're not happy with this, we need you to see a consultant. The NHS wait time is 12 to 18 weeks. Yeah. You can imagine that it's something that, the cancer is supposed to be within 2 weeks, but they're struggling to meet those criteria. But you imagine waiting to find out if the doctor said he's not happy with something, then you say, take a look at it. And you've got that on your mind every day when you're going into work every morning. You wake up for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 18 weeks. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, and mentally that's a strain, isn't it? That's the challenge. Talk to me about how the market's changed since COVID-19 and what's been happening recently.
Yeah, obviously it's been unprecedented for us in the market. On the 30th of March, private hospitals basically allocated 100% to the NHS, which is fair enough, with all the resources had to be made available so that the country could deal with the pandemic coming. What we've seen is how customers have been able to claim for COVID testing if they're showing symptoms, if they can find somebody who's doing the testing privately. In terms of treatment, private hospitals aren't set up to do like COVID-19 treatment. So because you need the isolation facilities and the ventilators, etc., that are necessary to treat those severe cases, our customers have been able to claim £200 a night if they had gone into an NHS hospital, which is something, it's just a supplement again, just to try and keep them going. Yeah. The ones that are requiring critical care, like cancer patients, have continued to be treated privately. So the NHS, although there's a couple of hospitals, did say, well, you keep going with the critical ones. Okay. And the good news, certainly from my customers' point of view, is from May the 15th, the NHS issued a de-escalation notice. So it's around about the same time they've offboarded the Nightingale hospitals. They've realised they don't need the capacity. So they've allowed the private sector to free up to some, not all of its capacity, but some of its capacity to treat planned procedures now.
Okay, I didn't know that. So that's now moved back to, if you have got private healthcare, odds are that you'll be able to go back to using private healthcare.
If it's not a serious operation, it's not time critical, it might be deferred, but the diagnosis of several of our customers in the last couple of weeks, they've gone to, they've had a referral, the first one of the claim, they've seen a specialist and they've had complex scans like CT scans, MRIs, and they've got their diagnosis within a week. So, we're back up to that peace of mind stage very, very quickly.
Okay, amazing. Tell me a bit about, because we touched on how you can help individuals, but also how potentially you can sort of work with businesses to make sure that in the event of their employees needing healthcare, they're protected. Help me understand why you think that's so important and why employees should consider it.
Well, private healthcare has become the second most important employee benefit, and that's just behind profit sharing. I've heard people that say that people put the cash first, but private healthcare is really becoming extremely important to people, particularly the higher paying jobs, but all the way down, like the cash plans are more relevant to some of the lower salary positions. But if you're not offering a healthcare scheme of any form, and that could easily be a tipping point between a prospective employee trying to join you or a valued member of staff being tempted away. The corporate healthcare schemes are shown to increase employment engagement and security in the firm because they're invested in employees, increase productivity. The staff have the freedom to see treats when or where, and that can fit in around your work. It reduces the time they may have that, when we were talking earlier about that uncertainty, the stress of not knowing what you've got. So it offers peace of mind to employer and employee.
It's an interesting one. When we work with our corporate clients, one of the things that we talk about is presenteeism. People being in work, but not being able to be focused on their job. And part of that challenge is when there's other worries. So certainly one of the things that Charlie, who works with me at Cervello, focuses on is making sure that we run seminars in workplaces to help people understand more about money, so that, because one of the big concerns is financial worries. So if we can educate people how to manage money better, then actually that makes them more productive in the workplace. But I can't think of any other thing apart from health that's going to be as important.
All of our business schemes also come with a free employee assistance program, which is a 24/7 independent helpline. And that's just to allow the employees to confidentially access some advice on health and well-being, obviously, but also telephone counselling for personal or work-related stress issues. Financial advice, not in the detail that you would have, but to direct people in the way against, and that could include state benefits, tax credits, etc.
So
net counselling and legal advice as well. The more directional that is there as a first port of call for people, that reassurance.
And I suppose the other interesting thing about that is having that independent helpline to support you through it. Means that if you're not comfortable having a conversation direct with the employer, they can phone the helpline, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's totally confidential. Obviously, as a medical insurance company, all about the information is quite sensitive. But the company we work with for this employee assistance program, nothing ever it's purely between the anonymous assistance program and the employee. So they can, if they've got work issues, they can take them to get advice. Okay, so I'll go back into HR at some stage, but having that independence, having an outside source can often give people that peace of mind, or give people just relieve a little bit of the stress. Yeah,
amazing. Terry, thanks so much for joining me on the show today. Where can people find out a bit more about you?
Our website, www.wpa.org.uk, or obviously they can contact you to introduce to me, and I can talk to them directly.
Amazing. Thank you so much again. If you've got any questions for Terry, what I'm more than happy to do is get in touch with us at Cervello. You can do that via hello@cervellofp.co.uk or chris@cervellofp.co.uk, and happy to have a conversation with Terry about passing your details on, or certainly get in touch with Terry directly. That's it for this week's Cervello Live. Hopefully I've shared some information that's going to be useful. Have a lovely day, have a lovely weekend coming up, and we'll see you next week on Cervello Live, where we'll be sharing more useful money tips. See you then. Thanks, Terry.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for inviting me.